Call the roll.
Greckin,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Waters,
Here.
Capron. Here.
Can we stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today we'll start with the consent agenda, which is items 2 through 3B. You can consider the item to pass unanimously unless a separate roll call vote is asked for by a council member. If you want to speak on an item that's on the agenda, please come up as I read that number. State your name and address for the record. If you want to speak on an item not on the agenda, please come up under citizen concerns. Again, state your name and address for the record. I will remind everyone, because we have a large crowd, that we have a 3-minute rule, and obviously a lot of you are here for a topic that we are well aware of. So it may be some limited discussion by raising of the hands as which side of support you're on, and allowing probably 4 or 5 people to speak in fairness on both sides of the issue, just so you know. Okay? So I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
2 is a reading of the City Council minutes of October 17, 2019. 3 is a resolution temporary closing a section of 4th Street on October 19th for the zombie pop. Yes?
We did have some proclamations. Did you not have those?
I have no proclamation here today.
Did we not have proclamations today?
Somebody's here for a proclamation. What are you here for?
Red Ribbon Week, lights and that.
I'm only doing my job that you've got
You're
for
doing
me
a
here
great
today.
job,
So-
really.
So you better call downstairs and see where they're at,
See
because
if
I
we can
have
bring
none.
it up.
Yeah, see if they can bring them up and.
We'll keep going and
Then we'll
Apocalypse
hit pause,
fundraiser.
you know, and start back up.
Is this still a 3 o'clock in the morning?
No. The sound
Well, it
permit
is
goes
due
to
at 3 o'clock in
10:30.
the morning. Is this still at 3 o'clock in the morning? I asked that question.
Parks and Recreation Manager, Angel Wallace. The street closure, yes, is being requested to end at 3 a.m. for the street closure itself.
And what assurances do we have that people aren't going to be running around those streets till 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't know why we would do 3 o'clock in this particular neighborhood.
So I do have the event coordinators here, David De Leon and also Don Du. The event itself will run from 3 p.m. till 1 a.m., and then they're going to go inside of Club Riviera at 1 o'clock. The 3 o'clock time frame was for them to clear off the street for all that, their equipment and stage and
Tear
everything
down.
that they have.
I know, but
Yes,
that's still
in the street.
not fair to people live there, because that's noisy, but if we hadn't had any problems in this particular area in the past, I would be a little bit more sympathetic. So, and the rest of you are okay with it, I'll move on. It doesn't matter to me, but it does matter to me, but it's not worth getting into.
The sound permit stops
The
at
sound permit
10:30,
does
right?
sound at 10:30, yes. So the sound permit will be issued for 10:30, so all of their music should end at that time.
And then go inside.
They will go inside at 1 a.m.
They must go in at 1 a.m.
So
They're allowed to be.
Okay, so their live entertainment is just going to be at 10:30, and then there's nothing going on inside? That's my question, because it would seem to me that if they quit their sound permit, obviously at 10:30, that they would have live entertainment inside.
Right. This is Don Du from Disabilities Resource Center.
Go ahead.
Need your address.
Address, Don.
1313 23rd Street. And we will be having the music stop at 10 o'clock. And there will be a buffer from that 10 to 10:30 so people can go inside where there will be a live event going on inside.
Perfect.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Don.
Tell me that next Monday.
Yeah, me too.
4 is a resolution adopting plans and specifications for the 10th and Irene Street paving repair project. 5 is a resolution scheduling a hearing on an amendment number 1 to the amended and restated combined Central City CBD urban renewal plan for development in the historic 4th Street District. 6 are actions relating to agreements and contract. A is a resolution approving a contract to Nelson Commercial Construction for the airport terminal renovation project. B is a resolution approving a cooperative agreement between the Iowa Civil Rights Commission and the Sioux City Human Rights Commission. 7 are actions authorizing the issuance of checks. A is a resolution authorizing final payment to Guarantee Roofing for a portion of the hail-damaged roofs and building projects. B is a resolution authorizing final payment to Wager Construction for the Morningside Library renovation project. 8 is purchasing resolution awarding a purchase order to Barco Municipal Products for snow tire chains for the field services. B is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Alexander Dennis for a low-floor diesel bus for the transit system. 9 are approved total payments for fund transfers issued for September 2019. 10 are applications for beer and liquor license. See the list and come forward if you have questions. 11, receipt of minutes. See the list and come forward if you have questions. Anyone to be heard on any of those items? Seeing none, we'll vote.
Okay. Mayor, I'm going to abstain on item 10. Let's see. 10A2A. Briar Cliff University. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. I'll get her. They said there was red ribbon and other stuff, Bob. Is this the only one?
That's the only one we have.
Okay, we're good. We're good.
Dan, I'm sorry, would you
The
restate?
Briar Cliff University item, 10A. 10A2 sub A. Second from the bottom of the page. Thank you.
I thought, yeah, I voted a long time ago. I'm sorry. My bad.
Sorry.
Nope, we got it. Passes 5-0. Robin McGinty? That's good. Come on up. Actually, we had this last week, so we had more of a confusion than I thought. Sorry about that. Come on up. We have a proclamation today that reads, whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, income levels, lifestyles, and sexes, and in fact, probably affecting someone you know. Whereas 1 in 3 women and 1 in 9 men will be a victim of violence in their lifetime. Domestic violence violates an individual's human rights by destroying dignity, security, and self-worth due to systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and abuse. The Council on Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence works every day to help these acts of violence and to help rebuild the lives of survivors. Whereas in Siouxland, the CSADV is available 24 hours a day, providing immediate response to nearly 2,000 adults and children in danger and in crisis or in crisis. Despite increasing needs and diminishing funding, no one in an unsafe situation was turned away. Whereas the impact of the domestic violence affects all the members of this community, and only a coordinated community response will put a stop to this atrocious crime, and assure funding is continually available to provide these life-saving services. Now, therefore, I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2019 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Sioux City, and urge all our citizens to actively participate in the scheduled events and programs to think about the fact that it's someone you know. And on a personal note, I think that they are a great organization and they certainly have a need for funding. So if you have any extra money on for any reason, this would be a great organization, because 2,000 adults and children in crisis speaks volumes for what they do every year. So thank you for your great work, and say a few words.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. I know everybody's got a lot on the agenda today, so I just want to say on behalf of myself and the other staff at the Council on Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence, we really appreciate the community support. You know, you'll notice when we talk about the work we do, we don't talk about our clients. We don't talk about victims. We talk about survivors. We work with about 2,000 survivors every year. And we're survivors too. You know, we're really busy, our funding's getting cut, violence is increasing, but we're hanging in there. And that has a lot to do with the support we get in the community from the other systems that we work with and from all the community members in so many ways. I just want to say thank you, all of you, for your support. Thanks.
Thank you.
12 is an ordinance rezoning a property of the southwest of the 33rd Street and Floyd Boulevard intersection. The petitioner is Kenneth Rose. P&Z recommends partial approval. First consideration approved on October 7, 2019. I'll move second reading.
Second.
This?
Jeff Hansen, Community Development Operations Manager. As part of this second and potential third reading, we would need direction with a motion from council to amend the ordinance to be consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation, which was a partial rezoning and not the full rezoning as requested by the petitioner.
My agenda reads that there is no amendment necessary. It's already been corrected.
Oh, no, that's on the date correction.
Oh, okay.
And if we pull up the screen, I'll just clarify that particular
Okay, well, then I
area.
will amend it to the P&Z's recommendation. I thought we did that last week, but I'll move that.
Second.
The area in red is the area that's being requested for approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The area in red plus the area in black was the original requested area from the petitioner. In this case, we're only supportive of the area in red. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. No, yeah, first, Mr. Carney, come up and explain where you put driveways so that those last week that didn't think I knew what I was talking about. Where do engineers put driveways, Mr. Carney?
We would like to see our driveways across from each other.
Thank you very much.
To eliminate cloud folk.
Just wanted to have you know that.
Thank you, Mayor.
On the
We're
amendment.
agreeing with you.
Are they here to be heard?
Jeff wants me to put that back.
I was just going to clarify, there's
Sorry.
also a map here showing the potential for the driveway to be placed directly across from the other commercial driveway closest to Floyd. So that's been given an option to the developer.
Right, it wasn't that
But
driveway
really
that was
that-
in question, it was the one up the hill that may
Correct.
go in at a later date. That was the question.
Exactly. And the option is that it would come back before the commission, and then it would come to us, and then we could look at that other driveway.
My whole point is that engineering and planning ought to talk together on these kind of issues. That's my point.
There's no one to speak on the item?
It wasn't last time either.
Oh, there was not? Okay.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
On the regular, voting electronically.
Yes, motion.
I'll move it. I already did, but I'll move it.
Second.
You're good, you're good.
Thought that was the amendment.
Yeah, we're good. Five zero, anybody opposed to third reading? No. Move that.
Second.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
I'll move it.
Second.
Passes 5-0. Ordinance 13, ordinance amending Chapter 7.03 Animal Control and Chapter 7.04 Rabies Control of the Municipal Code to revise the correct and streamlined process. The staff requests a motion to further amend the proposed ordinance Section 704-0104 to reflect the veterinary issues the rabies immunization tag, not the city. I'll move it to start the discussion.
Second.
Yeah, we'll vote on the amendment. I'll move the amendment first.
Second.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. Now on the regular 13, I'll move it.
Second.
The legal staff wanted to make a presentation before we enter into public discussion.
Yes, Mayor and Council, there are two ordinance on the council agenda for consideration this afternoon. They will be voted upon separately, but I anticipate that some discussion may be consolidated together. The first one is simply modifying and cleaning up our existing animal control ordinance, specifically as it pertains to vicious and high-risk animals. Currently, an owner, if there's a bite or an attack, is issued a citation to go to magistrate court on a duty to prevent a bite or attack. After that matter is concluded, then the owner would have the ability to appeal a vicious or high-risk designation administratively through the city's process. This streamlines it, so from the time that the original violation is issued, citing them into court, they can start their 10-day process to appeal administratively on the determination of vicious or high risk. This is being done to streamline the process so animals aren't being contained and held in animal control for longer than they need to. Will help the pet owners and streamline the process for costs and so forth. The rest of the items are mainly just cleanup items, things in the ordinance that we've seen over the years that need to be streamlined and corrected. No additional significant changes are anticipated with this requested revision.
What most people are here for will be 14, not 13, just so you understand. Okay, we'll talk about 14 separately. Because 13 has nothing to do with that.
It does not. It is not the retail section.
Okay. We have a motion?
Yes.
And a second.
And second.
Yep.
Sorry. Just give me one moment, please.
You're the guy that asked me someplace, so take your time.
I won't.
That passes 5-0. Is anybody opposed to waiving the statutory rule on that? I'll move that.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye, I'll move second and third.
Waters.
Sorry.
Aye.
I'll move second.
Yeah,
and third.
exactly.
Second.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to streamline that process.
Passes 5-0. On 14, just so everybody understands, we have what we call a process where we can waive rules. That will not have a waived rule. There'll be at least 3 weeks that this will be before us, so that at the time. 14 is an ordinance of repealing Chapter 7.10, pit bulls prohibited of the municipal code. I'm going to ask that, well, first, if you want to make a presentation, you can, but I'm going to ask that you allow people to go every other time. And then after maybe 4 or 5 speakers, we'll ask for raise a hand of which side you're on so the council gets a sense. I'm not sure that, you know, what kind of impact that has. But anyway, is where we're probably going to go here so you understand. So would you, we'll move it first. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For clarification for the public, the item that is being considered by the council now would be a complete repeal of the section of the city's ordinances which deal with the breed-specific ban of animals classified as pit bulls under the city code. That is what will be up for discussion this afternoon. The recommendation for staff is to consider potentially going to a breed-neutral regulation, which would be taken care of through the city's animal ordinances, specifically dealing if there are bites and attacks, that it would be regulated through our vicious and high-risk provisions under the code and the penalties associated therewith. Open it up for discussion at the mayor's direction.
Anyone can start up, and then we'll, like I said, try to go every other one if we can, please. Come to the microphone, state, whoever's up's fine. Come to the microphone, state your name and address. Come on up. Come on up behind him. If somebody, if you're on his side, please let somebody get in front of you that isn't. That's all I'm asking, okay?
Marty Torgerson, 3205 6th Avenue, Morningside. I'm for having the breed ban eliminated. I I'm 63. I got my first pit bull when I was 11. I've had 5.
Sir, if we could also have you speak into the microphone, just people that are listening
There you
can hear
go.
you.
Thank you.
Anyway, I had 5, no problems. It's because it's a person that owns the dog. It's not the dog itself. It's the responsibility of the dog owner to take care of the dog, whether it's a German Shepherd, a Pit Bull, Great Dane, whatever. I just think that a lot of, there's so much to say, and I'm not used to this, but at any rate, they're a good dog, and I think it's the responsibility of the owner, not the dog. Basically, that's what I want to say. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name is Glenn Baker. That's Glenn Baker. I live at 2017 West 14th Street, Sioux City, Iowa. I'd like to speak in a resolution to not repeal this ordinance. I think that we wouldn't be here if pit bulls weren't a problem animal. In my neighborhood, I witnessed a pit bull go down to a German Shepherd neighbor's house. This German Shepherd did nothing to provoke it. This pit bull went down, latched onto that dog, and would not let go. In the end, he had stitches, had to go to the vet, damn near died. And so I'm in favor of keeping the ban if you can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jason Hopkins. I live at 3325 Pierce Street. I've had several friends with pit bulls. They've always been probably one of the best dogs I've ever known. They're very smart, very intelligent. I also do HVAC for a living, and I have been in several Sioux City homes. Believe it or not, there's a lot more pit bulls in Sioux City than what people know. I've never had an issue with any pit bull in a customer's home. I've had more issues with smaller dogs and, for lack of better terms, ankle biters. But I mean, I have never had a problem with a pit bull. I do realize other people have had issues with pit bulls, but in my mind, it's kind of like, why do we ban a race of dogs? If you're going to ban one dog, I kind of believe you should just ban them all. And that's kind of my stance. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Rexner, 114 Midvale Avenue, Sioux City, Iowa. William Faulkner, great author, Mississippi, said the past is never the past. So here we are again, round 3. 9 months ago, I was contacted by city attorney's office in regard to litigation that a particular group of advocates had brought on behalf of reversing the pit bull situation. Fortunately, they lacked standing because they didn't have any pit bulls in the city, so the case was dropped in court. But I'm here today to tell you when I was on the city council, we voted unanimously to ban pit bulls for a very good reason. Many of them, not all of them, are very vicious dogs. You just heard what this gentleman said back here. They were trained to kill. When they latch onto you, they latch onto you. And that includes what they do with children. One of the things about pit bulls that led to my conviction that they had to be banned in this city is that they have a propensity to attack children as well as adults, as well as other animals. I have grandchildren. I don't want a pit bull ripping my grandchildren's face apart. Now, everybody says, well, we have a vicious dog ordinance. That doesn't take care of anything. The vicious dog ordinance come into effect after somebody's attacked. The decision that the council made that I was on was a preventive decision made on behalf of the public safety of this entire community, not just the owners of a breed of dog. I stand by that decision. Two of the best decisions that I was involved with at the city council was banning pit bulls, and the other one was keeping the store, the old Fairway store, open up on Fairway, up on Pierce Street. I'm very proud of those two decisions, and as I said, I stand by them. Now, people want to tell me pit bulls are okay, everything's fine. Do you know that there are 937 communities in the United States that ban pit bulls? And do you know the largest number of municipalities in the United States that ban pit bulls, what state they're in? They're in the state of Iowa. Roughly 90 municipalities in this state ban pit bulls. I grant you, the owner is responsible to what happens. However, pit bulls have a genetic predisposition to their violent behavior. And unfortunately, altogether too many pit bulls are owned by people who don't know how to take care of the dog or are using the dog in a manner that they should not be using the dog, which doubles the risk to people in this community. So before any decision's made about reversing it, and I know Councilman Gutman, I believe you were chief of police when we passed this, was that correct?
No, Captain.
Captain, I'm sorry. But anyway, you were there when...
Yes.
And we went through extensive discussions of all of this. Again, public safety is the predominant issue about all this. Now, there's a question about litigation.
Jim, you got 3 minutes are up, so
Okay.
can you wrap it up?
I'll wrap it up very, very quickly.
Thank you.
The issue of litigation about service dogs. I don't object to that, by the way. I want everybody to know that. If you want to have a pit bull as a service dog, that pit bull has to be certified, trained, and eligible, and so does the owner. I'm not uncomfortable with that at all, but removing the ban on pit bulls, I'm entirely uncomfortable with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Hi, Randy Giles, 33676 South Ridge Road. Did I miss anything? No, okay. So what is a pit bull? I don't know, it's about a mix of 5 different dogs combined. There's really no real exact what is a pit bull. So I think that that is part of the problem, is that a lot of these people who are giving testimony, like maybe even including myself, unless you have a DNA test, what is a pit bull? Is it a dog that just has a little bit of a larger face, floppy ears? I don't know. So when you have a ban like that, that doesn't really be specific, you know, banning German Shepherds, banning Dobermans, whatever, banning pit bulls doesn't really mean anything because, again, it's like 5 different breeds of dogs. But I think what happens when I come from Los Angeles and I founded an animal organization out there. It's been going for 16 years now called Karma Rescue, and we rescue pit bulls. And my experience with them is that they're extremely loving, absolutely amazing family dogs, clowns, they make you laugh, they're loyal, they're cuddly, they're funny. And just as any breed, there's not good labs, there's not good Maltipoos. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's the owner, it's not the breed. I think what happens when you have a breed like this, though, is you cut out a part of, like, responsible ownership. So you cut out education, you cut out training, because people who have these dogs, and I promise you, people in Sioux City still have pit bulls, and they're not able to access somebody who can help them. Help me teach my dog how to behave better. Help me teach my dog how to walk on a leash. But we're cutting out a whole portion of an opportunity to educate and to help people become responsible owners. Tell them my vaccinations are important. Tell them my training's important. And I just think that the more we ban, the more we're closing out, as opposed to lifting the ban and opening it for opportunity to educate and for trainings. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, if the discussion stopped, let's have a raise of hands for the people that are for keeping the ban. Keeping the ban. Okay. And those that are for lifting the ban. Okay. We have a motion?
Yes. I think, right? In a second.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
No, I'll just go first. I know everybody's got an opinion on this. That's why you're here, and that's why you had how many discussions, and that's why when I ran 8 years ago, I said, we'll never bring the pit bull back as long as I'm here. But unfortunately, things have changed, Jim, in that 8 years. And, you know, the courts have determined what this lady just said. What is a pit bull? it's all by what we look at. I should probably be careful because you don't want me to talk a lot, but what the heck. And so it's going to become increasingly more difficult to enforce the rule. I have real concerns about pit bulls. You guys can tell me how gentle they are. I've seen the effects. I've seen pictures. They're not the gentle dog. Not all of them are the gentle dog you'd like me to believe. What they've done to people and other dogs is not acceptable any more than any other dog. But if you have the statistics that Mr. Gretkin showed us today from his time of looking at this, they have a higher propensity to have that. You can't argue it. You can try to, but you can't. It just is reality. That's the reality of the dog, whether we like it or not. So, but the real problem for me is the cost and the time of this litigation and the likelihood of maybe not being successful is really high for this community. And it's difficult to put the community in that position for my vote if there are other ways to solve the problem. And we all know that all you have to do is say today, this is a companion dog, and there's not much we can do about it as a community. So you can bring any kind of dog in this community, call it a companion dog, and there's not much we can do about it, whether we like it or not. So it's a tough vote. I personally think the council 10 years ago did a great job of research and did a great job on the ordinance. But I think you're going to find that Iowa doesn't lead the way anymore on this, Jim, because it's become a cottage industry for attorneys, unfortunately. And you know, Mr. Moore, how much I think of attorneys, especially those that pursue these type of cases. I'm not a big fan of those type of attorneys. And that's my fear, that this has become a cottage industry that's going to go around the state of Iowa, and we're just one up right now. And we were somewhat fortunate that the last case we had lost standing, because we don't know what the results would have been. So anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I think the ban needs to go away. I have a pit bull. Nobody out there can tell me that my dog's mean. I'm telling you, you can come to my house. I have 3 dogs, and I have a chocolate lab, and I have a little Sheltie. They love each other. My pit bull is this tall, and my lab is this big, and I'm telling you, I've never seen them nip at each other, let alone want to bite somebody. My postman comes to deliver the mail. The dogs go crazy. They're yap, 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 yap. I open up that door, and they go get the tennis ball, and they want to play with. I'm just not talking my dogs. My pit bulls. I know a lot of people that have them, and they're good dogs. They're loving dogs. I had a sister-in-law that her pit bull was around her kids, her babies, and she trusted them with her kids. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that, like the gal said, how do you know what a pit bull is? You know, if I had mine tested, he probably isn't a pit bull, but you know, he has that kind of face. You can't judge people by the way they look. You shouldn't judge your dogs by the way they look. I grew up on a farm. We had all kinds of animals. We had all dogs and cats and horses and everything. And I'm telling you, it's how they're brought up. It's what they're surrounded by, just like your kids. You bring your kids up the way you want them to be good. You want them to be respectful. And that's what it's all about. So, and of course, you're going to have a bad apple. There's not a doubt about it. But I've seen German Shepherds. I had a little Shih Tzu one time, and she was just kind of a crabby old gal. You know, so, I mean, she'd like to nip at everybody. Well, you know, you can't judge a dog by the way it looks, just like you can't judge a person. So I wrote this down. Banning a type of dog that looks a certain way does not protect our. So I myself. Thank you. So I'm so that's all I'll say.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a point of clarification?
Mm-hmm.
might need to wait, Jim.
I only know what I read in the paper. I only know what I read in the paper, okay? The threat of litigation is based upon law. I thought it was based upon the denial of service dog eligibility for pit bulls. It was not based upon the threat of litigation.
It also is a concern that you can't truly identify what a pit bull is.
Well, but what's the threat of litigation precisely? Is it the issue of a pit bull not being able to be a service dog? Is it an issue of the dog not being able to be identified
At a minimum, we
correctly?
have to clean up our ordinance to allow them as service dogs and companion dogs, at a
Yeah.
minimum.
And that's an easy, that's, in my opinion, that's a relatively easy thing to do.
But then how do you tell me what a pit bull is? That's the problem.
It's the threat of all those other things as well.
Okay, but we went through all of that 10 years ago. It hasn't changed.
Well, wait, you
Okay, the
answered.
identification of the pit bull, was clarified. Correct?
I'll have the city attorney answer that.
Thank you.
Mr. Rixner, I appreciate your questions, and unfortunately regarding litigation items, I can't publicly comment on all of the issues that are before the council currently. I think the mayor addressed one of the questions regarding the fact that we know that ADA and fair housing needs to be addressed in the
Right,
ordinance.
and I don't disagree with that. I mean, that to me, that's a no-brainer in terms of the service dog issue. But even though you cannot comment, we spent many hours at this table working with animal control and the police department and legal counsel in defining what or was not a pit bull. So it was a precise definition. And I'm not concerned about how the dog looks. I'm concerned about how the dog acts. But thank you.
And one more thing, Jim, I want to add to that. I'm not only concerned about pit bulls, I'm concerned about all dogs. So for me, I have a neighbor that has 2 St. Bernards, okay? This just happened Saturday. Her dogs are wandering all over there, all over. I live on Cheyenne Boulevard. I caught both these dogs. Can you imagine me running across trying to grab a St. Bernard, and now I got 2 of them, right? Okay, so I'm hauling these dogs up to her yard, and she comes out and she says, oh, thank you. I said, I'm going to give you a little talk here. I said, here's the deal. We're on Cheyenne. You have 2 St. Bernards. They're out wandering around. They're up blocks away. They're not only going to get somebody hurt, they're going to hurt. I don't know if they're nice dogs or not. And St. Bernards are like horses, right? She tells me, well, her fence is broke. Really? Well, how about if you fix it?
Well, my only response to that, Councilwoman, is when I sat at that table, we had a council member dog disappear after biting somebody, okay? And it was not a pit bull, all right? So I grant you that, all right? I grant you all that. And I feel like Alexander Hamilton in Hamilton. I'm outgunned and I'm outmanned, but I'm not being quiet.
Well, the bottom line, I got to add one more part to this story. The black German, or the black St. Bernard went into the neighbor's yard. There's a little yippy dog there. That yippy dog chased after the St. Bernard. And not only that, but they have one of those electric fences around there, an invisible one. That dog, he walked right through it. And this black dog wanted to play. The big St. Bernard wanted to play with the little one, and the little one was going after it. So it's like, okay. So, we have problems with all kinds of types of dogs. And the St. Bernard was a nice dog. I mean, he didn't do nothing. He just let the dog chase after him, and I got him across the street. But there you go.
Well,
we need to be responsible. The bottom line is we all need to be responsible.
I agree.
Pet owners.
Well, everyone, even if you don't own a pet, should be responsible.
That's right. Exactly.
My name's Mark Solheim. I live at 2909 Garrettson Avenue. I wasn't allowed to come to your closed hearing, so I was not able to add any information that refutes any testimony about pit bulls being vicious, but I'd like to give it to you now, and perhaps you take a moment to look at it. But of the 23 dogs that are the most vicious, or have the worst bite, pit bulls are number 19. Great Danes have a worse bite. German Shepherds have a worse bite. Mastiffs have a worse bite. Dobermans have a worse bite. Cane Corsos have a worse bite than pit bulls. Now, it is a complete fallacy that pit bulls have this so-called locking jaw. It's a complete lie. It's not true whatsoever. the thought that a pit bull ban bans pit bulls from the city is crazy. A pit bull ban does not remove pit bulls from the city any more than gun control laws remove guns from Chicago. They are still here and just as prevalent. And I'd like to remind you, how many incidents have you heard in the last 8 or 10 years about a pit bull biting somebody? The last one we heard was a German Shepherd in North Sioux. Animal control is filled full of pit bulls because they're illegally here in the city, and people cannot go down and claim them without paying a huge fine. Animal control has these dogs, and they have nothing. They can't do anything with them, and it's just not right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to leave that information with us?
Yes, I certainly will.
Would you please
City manager there.
just hand it to Mr. Padmore, please? There is a difference, is there not, though, between companion animals and service dogs?
I think the mayor is talking about emotional support animals.
But I mean, there is okay, and that can be complicated.
Well, yeah, because I think both require a prescription, but yeah, probably.
No. Was it companion? I don't
An
think so.
emotional support does. I don't know about companion.
Service animals, trained service
Yes.
animals, that's a higher
easy.
standard, yes, for training, and they're, I guess, placed to serve someone that has a disability. Emotional support animal, it's a little more of a gray area. Usually it's for some sort of disability, but it doesn't have to be something that's medically diagnosed necessarily. So there is a difference.
And a doctor can write you a prescription for emotional support dog.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll say my piece and I'll try to keep it brief. I would just say that I think this is a challenging issue, right? It's a challenging issue. Obviously, it's very emotional, and there are people with emotions on both sides of this issue. I think you're seeing a great example of democracy where hopefully you bring people together and talk about issues, weigh the pros and cons. I know you have a council before you, as you have had councils in the past with Mr. Rixner, that have weighed this topic, have looked at the costs and have looked at the benefit and tried to weigh that in their mind. I think that is something I certainly have not taken lightly. I hope you know that if you have emailed, if you have reached out, I've read all of your emails. I've tried to respond to most. I apologize if I have not gotten to yours yet. But that means a lot, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here today, to be heard. That's something that I truly appreciate. I will say that I'm all for, especially in number 13, what we passed today. I think that we do need to streamline our process. I think more work will need to be done to make sure that we have support for the services that we have. I think that we need to continue to do that, as we've spoke about with education and otherwise. I think that those things are very important, and we'll need to continue to work to do that. However, I also am not a big fan of blanket statements, of blanket ordinances, of saying everything of this is bad or everything of this is good, whether that's animals or otherwise. I just don't know how I could ever vote on legislation that would do that. And so for me, I think what Councilwoman Capron was saying is really important. I think it's homeowner responsibility, and I think it's making sure that we enforce the ordinances that we have and that we educate and train and make sure that we try to keep people safe. The thing that does bother me, Jim, the point that you made that does bother me is I'm much more of a proactive person. I want to be proactive. And it's really challenging to be reactive, and after something happens, then you take action. That's something I struggle with. But I, too, have lived with multiple dogs throughout my life, and I will tell you the most aggressive dog I have ever lived with is a Chihuahua. That thing is intense. That thing is intense. But I wouldn't be up here advocating to ban Chihuahuas. Maybe that Chihuahua, but not Chihuahuas. And so I can't find myself today to be in support of a breed-specific ban, so that's how I'll be voting.
Anything, Pete, before you vote, or we can vote? Are we ready to vote? We got a motion.
Well, I'll just go back real quickly to Mr. Richner's comment about the police department becoming involved. The vote to ban the pit bulls was in 2008. I was still an active member of the police department, and one of the areas of my responsibility was animal control. And the police department didn't initiate the ban. The request was made through the city manager, I'm sure, on behalf of the city council. And I went back and looked at the most recent 100 bite reports at that time, 11 years ago. So there's, a long period of time. At that time, out of the 100 bites that were declared vicious or high risk, there was a requirement, and the police department handled the hearings. I was involved in almost all of those hearings, and the results were, as best I can recall, and I think Caleb, probably Assistant City Attorney, can back me up a little bit. About half of the 100, my recollection is 47 of the 100 dogs were pit bulls. I've mentioned it to the council that had 47 of them been French poodles, we probably would have recommended banning French poodles. So it really wasn't, in a roundabout way for me at least, it really wasn't keying in on the pit bull. The pit bull rose to the surface because of the bites and all of the complaints and issues. I have a really tough time because in my homework, all of us received a graph that charted out the last 17 years of bites. In the first 6 years, from 03, it started from 03 through year-to-date 2019. The first 6 years, there were a total of 118 pit bull bites in the statistical data I received. In the last 11 years, there's only been 80, but yet twice as many bites. So what that tells me, right or wrong, is that the ban had an impact because it reduced, if we wouldn't have potentially, we will never know, if we wouldn't have banned the pit bull, we could have twice as many bites. From the 118, we could have closer to 250 bites over the last 17 years. It looks to me as though the ban had an impact on pit bulls biting people, and as a result, I think maybe there were a lot of people who were responsible enough to take the dog out of the city and or continue, because part of it was, they didn't just ban pit bulls. If you had licensed your animal and you continued to license your pit bull every year, you could keep your pit bull. And that was the ordinance. So if you had a pit bull in 08, you could keep licensing your animal and still have it today. And I suspect that's the category you fall into.
I was going to clarify that because my pit bull is registered. I take care of it every year, and it was grandfathered in before, so I am legal.
So being an old, about 14 years old, so he's too old to bite anybody anyway, but what the heck?
Yeah. Well, he's got teeth.
Any pit bull that was here at that time, now of an age, being an old public safety.
Well, that's kind of like all of us, Bob.
Kind of being an old public safety guy, in my career, our responsibility was the safety and welfare of the residents of the community. And I had, certainly, once the law was changed, the ban was enacted, I can see the results over the last 11 years. And I'm really torn because if I'm going to err, I want to err on the side of safety and welfare for people, adults, children alike. And so I'm really torn because I also have a responsibility, a huge responsibility. Always has been part of my concern being a police officer was the exposure of the city to any potential liability issues. And I want to reduce those, and I want it to be safe for everybody. Now, there's no guarantees. I'll be heartbroken if the ban goes away and something serious happens in a week. But then again, may not know this, but I'm an emotional guy, so it would be really hard on me. I'm really torn, and I think we're only doing one reading this evening, so we'll have to go through this a couple more times. But I'm really torn. It appears to me that there's evidence that it worked, the ban worked in terms of bite and injuries and keeping people safer. So that's really what my whole goal is about. At the same time, I also know there are other issues that we need to consider. But for the time being, I will probably and will vote to retain the ban. And it's because strictly, I believe it's my responsibility to be concerned about the welfare and safety of people. And this may not do it, and probably won't, because I don't have the control of the animal. That's up to the owner. But I also have to consider other things, so I'll have a couple of weeks' worth of trying to decipher information and trying to figure out what's best, what the best interest of the city is. So.
Mr. Mayor, one more point of clarification. Excuse me. This is nothing. I appreciate what you said. It's a question I want to ask. This has become and will become a more difficult issue over the next couple of weeks. And one of the reasons is I want to know why the information that this council had about that longevity issue of dog bites was not made public. Was not made public.
Sure, it is public. It's from the.
Where was it published?
It's the Department of Public Health.
It was not published. No comments were made. The news media.
No, Jim, but if you want that, all you have to do is request it. It's a public document.
I appreciate that, Mr.
But it's
Mayor.
not, listen, it's a public document at Department of Health. Every dog bite gets registered there. That's not our job to disseminate. That's the Department of Health if you have a problem.
But this has become a media event. You all know that. People have been invited.
If the media asks somebody for that, they can have it. We're not trying to hide that from anybody, so.
Having not released it redefines this discussion, and you all know that.
Well, I don't. We have all kinds of stuff we get every week.
I was going to say
278 pages probably last week of memos, and it's available to anybody in the public.
Jim, therein lies a big dilemma for me. I think I received, I know maybe 3 or 4 emails from outside of the city, from at least from professionals, doctors and
lawyers,
attorneys, who know their business well, and a percentage of them said you got to keep the ban, an equal percentage said you can't have a ban, and this is just a really, really tough decision to make. But it's, again, for me, it's really an issue of overall safety and welfare.
And I appreciate that, but the notion out in the community was pit bull bites have been reduced. Of course they have, because they're banned. But what the statistics show is were they not banned, it would be an entirely different discussion.
Well, but it also shows, which was shocking to me, is that dog bites in general are up, which we don't hear about either. So
that's shocking too.
You know what? Last year, there was 95% of the bites were not pit bulls. which means that there was only 5% that never.
But there were no pit bulls. I mean, just the ones that are grandfathered in.
But it goes back.
Not, you know what, we're not gonna go there, guys, I'm sorry.
Where's the
not here.
95%?
We're gonna,
Obviously.
we're gonna respect each other's opinions.
If I may. My name is Gregory Giles. My address is 33676 South Ridge Road, 51108.
I understand.
Councilmember Gretkin, if I'm not mistaken, the numbers generally have gone up substantially as far as dog bites reported. And that has lots of reasons behind that, if I'm not mistaken, between 03 and 19. It's not just that the numbers of alleged pit bull dog bites have been reduced because of possibly they're being banned, but just generally overall the numbers have gone up. That's owing to probably a more informed citizenry reporting their dog bites generically. So the population of Sioux City has not exponentially increased in the last 16 years. Apparently, the number of dog bites have, whereas the number of putative pit bull dog bites have not increased. The fallaciousness behind, I feel, banning pit bulls is, if you look at the ordinance, I think it says American Staffordshire Terrier, American Pit Bull Terrier, English Bull Terrier, American Bull Terrier. There's about 5 so-called breeds that fall under the rubric of pit bull. That on its face is, I think, an inherent flaw in the ordinance and why it would be prudent to overturn it. In my previous life, I was an attorney, and one of my first cases I ever had was a dog bite. And it was a alleged pit bull that bit a small dog and shook it around. That was my first encounter with the breed. This is 30 years ago. Of course, the dog that was in question was, in fact, not a pit bull. It was a Rottweiler German Shepherd mix. But the owner of the small dog that got bit, who was my client, that was his claim, was this crazy pit bull from the neighbor's yard came and attacked my small dog. Now, what the issue more germane to this matter is that the vast majority of these dog bites, if I'm not mistaken, are by unneutered dogs. If you want to have something more efficacious, it would be a mandatory spay-neuter law. You have numerous intact animals running the streets of Sioux City, and when they get rounded up by animal control, you'll find that the vast majority of them are unleashed, unlicensed, and unneutered. And that's much more important to preventing dog bites, is to neuter your animal, to spay your animal, to keep it locked in your yard, not on a chain, but in the home or within a fenced area, and not have them running. It's irresponsible dog ownership that causes dog bites, not specific breeds. Breed-specific legislation has generically not worked in many cities. In Denver and San Francisco, which have enacted similar legislation, they have not reduced the number of dog bites writ large or the number of so-called pit bull dog bites. We all know the horror stories that came out of San Francisco about 20 years ago. It was a Presa Canario or a Cane Corso, intact male, attacked and killed a woman. Karen Whipple was her name. But as far as any specific breed being more inclined to violence, that is just not true. The facts don't bear that out.
Your time's about up. So.
All right, that's all I had to say. But I would urge you to overturn the ban.
Again, I'm going to limit the discussion. We've already gone into the council discussion stage, so make it very brief, okay? Because we've already violated the rules I established at the beginning.
My name's Courtney Vanderschaff, 1412 Judge Street. I just I'll make it short and sweet. I've always owned pit bulls. I was grandfathered in with 2 of mine. Never had any incidents because I am a responsible pet owner. They passed away 17 and 16 years old. I no longer have them. But as you were an officer or whatever yourself, if you're aware that pit bulls are now becoming canine officers.
Time to vote, council. Passes 4-0 to 1, and I will reiterate what Mr. Gretkin said. I don't think you consider my vote to be solid at this particular point in time, but We'll have it back in the next 2 weeks, so thank you. 15 is a resolution amending the position classification manual by approving an updated job description for the EMS Director and Compliance Officer. I'll move that.
Second.
I had just a quick question
Thank
on this
you all
one.
for coming.
Thanks.
See you next week.
No. Well, yeah, you're.
Janelle, is this you? You had this? Is this just to add the requirement of a DL, driver's license? Is that what that was?
Janelle Bertrand, Human Resources Director. Yes, it is. Originally, the job description had chauffeur's license. We changed it to a regular driver's license, noted on the job description. And the new change is that we are requiring applicants to supply a certified driving history record at the time of application.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just
And why don't they have, is that truck's not big enough to have a chauffeur's license?
No.
And then if you just want to stay up here, if you can answer them now.
We're deleting a bunch of them.
The rest are being deleted.
Never mind then.
Okay.
I made it
We
easy.
can't do 16, 17, 18, 19 at least and delete them all at one time, but we're deleting and let that go today too.
Come on,
I'm in
Nicole.
one of those
Sorry.
moods to just get along today, Jeff. I just want to get along.
Okay.
Okay, everybody vote.
And we're waiting for Councilman Gretkin.
I'm still trying to catch my breath.
Yeah, I know.
Want me to get it for you?
No.
I got it.
16's that passed. Let's, if 5-0 passes. 16's a resolution amending the position classification manual by deleting EMT paramedic, the lead medic training officer positions. I'll move to delete that item.
Second.
Going to use go ahead and use your voting panels to delete each of the
Yes to delete, no, it's not to delete?
Yes.
yes to delete.
Passes 5-0. 17 is a resolution amending the position classification manual by adding EMT, paramedic, and lead medic training officer positions. I'll move to delete.
Second.
Do we have a reason, or is this coming?
These items were folding the EMS department into the AFSCME collective bargaining unit, and in review, we found some things that need to be better clarified. So the decision was made just to pull them now and get it all fixed and bring it back.
Okay.
And they're going in the PATS group?
They're going to, yeah, the AFSCME PATS union group.
Oh, they asked me, okay, yeah.
Alex?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Or leaves us. So 18 is approving amendment number 3 to the contract of local 20, pass 5-0. 18 is a resolution approving number 3 to the contract of local ASME 2796. ASME represents PATS employees to include sections for EMS and establish a salary schedule for EMT, paramedic, and lead medical training officer positions. I'll move to delete.
Second.
Yeah, right.
I can help.
Yeah, exactly.
Attorney wasn't looking and.
Good job.
I can actually,
Yeah, pull him out of there.
okay.
Let's move on.
I've done this before, but I can abstain him. I can.
That's good.
Okay.
Passes 4-0. 19 is a resolution terminating the amended and restated salary and benefit plan for EMS employees. I'll move to delete.
Second.
Passes 4-0. 20 is a resolution approving a payment to certified testing services for the convention center parking deck project. I'll move that.
Second.
Passes 5-0. 21 is a resolution approving change order. Request number 14 to the contract with L&L Builders for public restroom remodeling for the Convention Center renovation project. Deferred from October 17th. I'm going to move that. I think it's kind of unfair because I don't think this council shares the same opinion I do, so I think we should vote on it up or down and let it go, so.
By the same token, if we delete it, we can just start all over with the bid process.
Yeah, but I'm not sure the majority of the council wants to.
But if you think that that would be a cost-saving measure, and I've spoke with other members that are outside of the council that believe that it would save money, then let's put it to the test, if that's
I
what
don't
you
believe
think.
it will save money.
I don't know if it will or it won't, and that's the one sure way of finding out if it will. But I do want to say that I'm glad and understand completely why Stan recommended the RCA to come forward and to do the work now while the contractor's in place. I think the potential to save money is great, but I also think that it's really important to do the work. I think we'll probably vote to do it one way or the other. The last thing I want is for somebody to say they've been here after we've really created a nice venue down there and an environment down there, and then they say, well, yeah, but you probably want to walk over to the hotel to use the restroom because...
You feel that way in those restrooms?
Yeah, absolutely.
You really do.
I don't want somebody on the east side of the state going to say, you know what?
I've been to conventions more than any of you guys to those Iowa League of Cities, and our bathrooms that we have today are just as nice as anyone in any state, in any building, in any, I mean...
Well, you know, and I appreciate your opinion.
So,
you certainly have been to a lot more than me.
I'm not going to vote for, even if it's 150,000. I want you guys to know that. So do whatever you want to today.
I just think it's important. I just think it's important.
I agree, but I don't see
to have the work done and a quality project completed, and with the anticipation that it's going to get used dramatically, and the understanding that.
I walked into those east ones. Have you?
Yeah.
To the west ones, you mean?
The new east ones.
The new east ones.
No, I haven't been to the new east ones, no.
I didn't find them, like, gosh, I'm so glad I came to this bathroom rather than the one on the west
Well,
side.
you might be sometimes, so you got to be careful there. So that's the other side.
I don't know. I must not. I know you spend more time in there, Mr. Moore. That's obvious, but.
Okay, so here's my deal. I voted no against it last week, and I'm changing my mind because I didn't realize back then that it was an ADA compliant. And for me, I think that's a big deal.
Those are ADA compliant.
No, they're not.
Okay, you can change the stand, the dividers, make them ADA. What's the big hang up on ADA? That's not, you know what, I don't want to argue about this anymore. Let's just vote these bathrooms up or down, then you guys can give the staff direction on what to do.
No. I'm confused.
No second. Somebody want a second?
Second.
Stan, go ahead.
I was just going to comment to the mayor, Stanley Fay, Facilities Maintenance Supervisor. It's my understanding that currently there's not enough room, turning radius in those stalls to make them ADA, and I believe the grab bars are probably wrong, but.
Well, if that's truly the case, then I don't know how you got by, because once you do a remodel on a building, the law is you have to bring those type of things up to ADA compliant. So how did we get to this stage and not know that?
Because those bathrooms haven't been remodeled.
It doesn't matter. You've got to bring the building up to ADA compliant when you do a major renovation in a building.
Well,
that would be a Darrell Bullock question.
Okay. Ernie, do you want to say something?
Ernie Colt, 4526 Perry Way. I just have a hard time with it because I know, and I only asked one other contractor to look at that project, and it was $40,000 less. And I just think $40,000 of taxpayers' money is enough to take a look at it. I went into those bathrooms last week, and I don't know that, I think they're fine. They could be adjusted. I know there's plenty of room in there. to make some adjustments. I don't see how we can just hand over a $211,000 project just because they're there.
But Ernie, if it comes back, once we ask for the bids and the lowest bid is $250,000, how do I justify that? If I said, well, staff sent me a memo saying that it was going to be cheaper to do it while they were there, and I said, well, no, I had to.
It's not going to happen.
I had to see.
It's not going to happen.
Well, if the mayor has anything to say about it, I'm sure it wouldn't.
No, I'm done. I've had enough of bathrooms. I'm done.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but it's not going to happen.
Well, at what point does...
Even if you save $20,000 of taxpayer dollars, that's enough to make a decision. So I think between a $40,000 difference in just those first two numbers, I think that leaves some wiggle room in there to maybe add some fancier tile or whatever whatever you want to do. But
Well, I think they were looking at one time not doing the tile, leaving the tile where it's at, just leaving the tile. So I don't know how much. Stan, can you tell me anything about that? I kind of heard through the grapevine that you're considering, if we did the bathrooms, that we wouldn't have to mess with the tile.
The tile is part of the project.
Yeah,
but
but
that is
it
wall tile. The floor in the existing
Floor tile.
bathrooms will stay the terrazzo.
Right.
And I think it says in the specs that we're changing the floor out, but I think we're going to do a change order and leave it as.
And so
We'll take that back
what would
out.
be the difference in that?
I don't know.
So we're saving some money there then.
We will, probably.
The disadvantage I think we have, Ernie, is that we're not comparing apples to apples, I don't think, as far as bids go. And the last thing I want to do is, well, it's not the last thing, but one thing that I struggle with is we might have a situation or opportunity to save time and funding. Those are original fixtures, are they not?
Yes.
West side of the convention center. And to have the convention center completed, we've got to fill it up with conventions, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got to have people come in there. We're going to make this work. Then to actually close part of it down for 90 days, because I read the homework, it's going to go till January of 2020. So you get about a 90-day period that it would be shut down. And then you don't have any guarantees it's going to be very similar to what the east side is like. And I want this to be a first-class convention center, convention facility. I know there are people that struggle with just even the concept of having a convention center. And Ernie, I'm not saying you are, because I
love it.
yeah, I know you do. And we've talked about this. I'm not saying Ernie does, but there are people in the community that have a concern about what we're doing with our convention center. We either have to be successful at the operation and running of the convention center, or we, like the mayor said months ago or years ago, we need to do something different. So I'm really struggling with, do we get the bids? What will that do to the prices? What will that do to the timing? And Ernie's exactly right. I agree with you. 40,000, 20,000, but I don't know if we're comparing apples to apples with what we have, and I struggle with that, and I don't have an answer except I want it to be a very nice convention facility, Mayor. I really do.
I guess the thing I struggle the most with is when this job first came out for bid, all the bids were too high and we were too worried about money. And now all of a sudden we've got a, project going. Now let's throw another $211,000 in there while they're there.
But the thing is that we had it in the CIP, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So
It got in there last year. It was not in there before that. You can check the book.
Well, that's fine. It was still there. Yeah.
And I think it was 175,000 that was put in there. So we're still going to have to come up with 68,000, right?
Exactly.
What, the 147.5?
You can come up with.
I talked to Donna this morning. She said the money is there.
Yeah, because they're using the unallocated funds. That's not.
Yeah, it could be used for something else.
It's not budgeted, as it was stated last week. When it's budgeted, you have the whole thing budgeted, in my opinion, in all transparency, but
Jeff Renders, 2300 Hawkeye Drive. As a contractor, typically, I would tell you that having the contractor that's there as a change order, it will be cheaper because there's no mobilization or anything like that. I don't know the scope of the work, however, but typically it would be less expensive for you to do it while someone's there than to bring someone in later. Maybe, again, mobilization, things like that. And whether, this apples to apples or not, and there is $40,000 difference. Of course, I'm a taxpayer too, but I would say that most of the time, a reputable contractor is going to give you a better
And
price
most of
while
the
he's
time,
there.
I would agree with you, Jeff, but they're down to carpet. The general that they're talking about long left the site. Yeah.
Well, this may not be
We have a motion in a second.
a good comparison, but I struggle with the fact that we provide incentives to contractors and developers all of the time to put together a first-class operation. And now that it's the city doing it for the city to have a quality operation and to hopefully draw in a lot more economy into the community, we don't want to do that. And it just doesn't seem reasonable and fair to me. But I also think it needs to be a first-class operation. I would agree with Dan, and it just makes good sense for us to provide quality.
Absolutely. And I like that too. I'd love to see the project get done, but let's have it done fairly.
So
they're not there. Let's give it to the one who's there. They're not there. I've been there. I went there. There's nobody there. There's no trailer. Why are they there?
Trailer was moved so that we could do the sodding and the concrete. The contractor is on site.
Who? Because they're doing, I was there just last week, Stan, carpet's what's left.
They have a superintendent and they have workers down there that were putting the bathrooms together, Bob. They're working on the cooling tower also.
Okay.
Was that project done on time?
The completion date was Friday, the 11th. We did the punch list on Thursday. So they are substantially complete.
They're still there?
They're still there.
So they're there,
Finishing
do the
up,
bathrooms.
finish up the items that we have to finish up, like the carpet, touch up on painting, which are subcontractors yet, but they still have.
But they are substantially complete.
On time.
One thing that was brought to me, I talked a lot about this weekend with some friends, people that frequent the convention center. One of the things we did talk about too was thinking about updating that whole west side. At some point in time, that will need to be done. You know what I mean? The entire area, the office space, the entry area, all of these things, huh?
The meeting rooms?
Yeah. All of those things are original to the building.
Yes.
All of those things are 33 years old. So the one thing that some friends that I was talking about it with were saying too, that it's like, well, if they're, to the mayor's point, if they're able to be, if the restrooms and things like that are able to be used right now and we want to kick the can down the road longer, at least then maybe you do the whole project. You bid it out and do the whole thing, that west side at some point in time, 5 years down the road, to bring it up to everything is updated then. It's not just the restrooms on that side are updated and nothing else is updated on the west side. That was just another point that was made to me that got me thinking that, is this when we have to do this right now, or what would we want to do? Because is it in the CIP to update those other rooms or the offices?
No.
Again, I think the decision to make the recommendation and it to come forward to council was a good one. So Stan, I appreciate that. And I think it's really in the city's best interest to have a first-class quality operation.
I have to agree there because I was down there today. I had to speak at a meeting and so I walked around, checked out the bathrooms and I really do believe that they need to be fit and we got to do it right. And we have to have ADA And I'm surprised that we've gotten by this long without having.
Have to have it till you update the building, is why you don't have to.
Well, that's what we're doing though, aren't we? I mean, that we're.
That's why I asked the question, if that's the case. There's lots of issues here for me. If it's an ADA issue, then why didn't we know about it before? Number two, you had it in the budget for over 4 months now. If it was such urgency, why didn't we discuss this 4 months ago? Then it's not all funded in the budget, so that means something else has to give. You can tell me you only got $50,000 in a contingency, you're $68,000 short, something else has to give. So we need to know, I mean, I forget it.
Let's vote.
I think what jump-started this was the ballroom. What
They
jump-started?
knew that, they put the money in the budget
but
4 months ago, Dan. They put it in last November when they did the CIP.
And that's to Ernie's point, and that's what I struggle with. I think he raised good points. I struggle with that. But the ballroom is the one that kicked it off. Why the ballroom? Because we have the convention center hotel that's being constructed. I mean, it's all tying in together. Why we didn't do it 4 months ago, I don't know, Mayor. I don't have an answer for that. But I'm just looking at this, and I'm leaning toward we need to do it. And do we want to take the risk that it could be a higher price? Is it going to be apples to apples? And I just don't know.
Or take the risk it could be lower.
Or it could take the risk it could be lower.
Exactly, and that's
Exactly. Those are our tax dollars.
Right. I don't know. You look at the one today.
$40,000 ought to
The
be
airport's
enough to take
basically
a
the same
second
job.
look.
Mm-hmm. And it came in 60% of the engineer's estimate. So whose estimate's right? That's the problem.
It's worth a second look for $40,000. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thanks, Ernie.
Passes 3-0. Council, any citizen concerns?
3-2.
3-2, I'm sorry. I didn't think you came to talk about bathrooms.
No, I didn't talk about that. I didn't want to talk about any of that. Jeff Reinders, 2300 Hawkeye Drive, President, Sioux City Construction League. I was here a few months ago on behalf of our membership, calling your attention to the fire department occupancy fees. This is over 2 months ago, probably going on 3 months ago. Haven't heard yes, no, maybe, sorry, tough luck, anything. And I, as an individual citizen, deserve better than that. And 150 members of your commercial building trades deserve better than that. Do we understand what we're talking about here? You're going to look into it, and nothing's happened. Is something going to happen?
I think that we gave direction for that, didn't we?
The staff has not received direction on whether you would like it repealed or not.
I have a $200 bill right now for my third
Fire
inspection that I'm going to donate to the abused family deal. I'm not going to pay it. We have no problem with the inspections at all. It's gone on every year for years. Come on in, look around. I don't change anything in my building for a year or 2 or 3. They still come in every year, and now we have to pay for that. It's just another fee. And I understand how budgets work. But we don't think that this fee is justified.
Well, how about this? In 2 weeks, we'll have it on a study, at the end of a session, so you can give us all the facts. We'll have it here in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Fair enough.
You'll get to sit through a whole meeting again, because we'll do it at the end.
I hope it's not as long as.
We enjoy. That'll be the last reading.
I was gonna leave.
It'll be the last reading of the pit bull, so pack a lunch, okay?
Can we do it after the pit bull deal? Thank you.
Thanks. Any other citizens' concerns? Mr. Padmore, or Mr. Gretkin, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to mention real quickly, the volunteer appreciation dinner the other night was a nice event. The mayor acted as the host and MC, and
spoke very briefly.
Spoke briefly, but Ann Broderson gave a nice talk.
Great job, yes.
And did a great job. The food, I thought, was
top drawer.
Yep, really good. So I thought it was nice. I'm surprised that there aren't more volunteers who show up, because it was a good time.
Yeah, I'm not sure that a lot of them understand yet what that is. We may have to do a better job of letting them know. But yeah, I thought it was a very nice evening. And I agreed. Ann did a great job. Food was good, and it was just a nice evening.
Yes, it was.
Missed it.
I am too.
I was at the convention.
You pass?
Yes, it was.
Jessica did a great job.
That's all I have. Thanks. Yes, thank you.
Other than those crummy bathrooms, it was a great evening. But
I'll tell you what, but that's where you were all night, weren't you? I knew it.
Yeah, I went down and looked at the new ones and thought, whew.
Glad you're there.
Go ahead, Mr. Waters.
I'll pass.
What?
I'll pass. There are tons of things,
okay?
but I got to get going.
Oh, you got to get going. You pass.
Don't we have a joint meeting?
We do have a
Where is it, Alex?
joint meeting tomorrow.
Where?
Right, Active Transportation Committee, and it is in the lower level of the council.
Is there another?
Or lower level of the city hall.
Is there one Thursday as well? Tuesday and Thursday both?
Thursday.
Don't we have a meeting Wednesday?
And
Yes.
actually, we have a retreat.
Tuesday,
12
Wednesday,
noon?
Thursday at noon.
Council retreat on Wednesday at noon at.
I don't know if I can take these.
And Thursday
Interpretive
is what,
center.
at the airport? Yeah.
And Thursday is the breakfast, the pancake breakfast.
And then
Oh my God.
Thursday is the airport joint.
At the airport.
We have a busy
We're
week.
going to see each other a lot. Get excited.
Do your homework. That's all I have for tonight, is do your homework before our council retreat on Wednesday at noon.
Yeah, review the questions that were sent out.
Please.
Where are those?
I was going to say, can you make
Jessica
sure-
sent them out last week. We can resend them tomorrow.
Can you resend them tomorrow for everybody, the questions on our retreat for the?
Please
And
do.
just so you know,
Yeah, I've got 'em
also,
all.
Matt Omen with SHIP, I was at a meeting with him today. He is also going to put together a one-page document. I know the meetings from the last meeting were
Yeah, the minute.
sent out, or
Yeah.
the minutes, sorry.
I will say at the request of some council members, they want most of the time devoted to discussion amongst the council members. So we're asking those, if they want to present, to limit themselves to about 5 minutes.
Well, and Matt can't be there. He just said he was going to put together a one-page document of some talking points, some thoughts he had.
Well, I'm going to go out on a
Or me,
limb.
and if he sends it to me, I'll send it to you. Yep.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I think Councilmember Gretkin has probably attended, and I know our mayor attends, thousands.
No, but
But
I gave that to
Mr.
him. He's
Gretkin,
done
yes. Attended more meetings in the past 4 years on the discussion of homelessness than any one of us sitting up here.
Very true.
And I remember Mr. Gretkin saying, I want to know how the mayor and the council members feel about the issue. So what I'm trying to avoid, with all due respect, because I've gone to some of those meetings, not as many as you. Rhonda's been to some, Alex has been to some, you've been to some, we've all been to some. We want to hear from the council members. That's why I'm saying, please do your homework, look at those questions. I'm not advocating anything by questions I submitted. I want to have a discussion and some structure, because I don't want to walk out after 2 hours and we say, we didn't really.
Where do
say-
we go now?
Or we didn't say much
Okay,
of
so
any substance.
I
With
got a
all
hold,
due respect. Now, here's a siren. They're coming.
okay,
Did you call
well,
them?
I do want to add something. I got a hold of Professor Crowley from Briarcliff, and he is going to give me some information about, they did a study 6 years ago on the homeless. And so he's going to give me some of that information so I can bring, and it tells.
Okay. But be thinking of the, of how you feel about those questions. Be thinking of where you stand with the issues. Be thinking of what is the mission of the city of Sioux City? What is our mission? Because that plays a very important part as to what our part is in all of this, in my opinion.
Agree.
I agree too.
Please do your homework. Mr. Mayor, you have an assignment for Wednesday.
I'm a quick learner. I move we adjourn.
Second.
I have a question. You got your new email, the new way you're going to get your homework? Anybody see that?
It was a folder, and I didn't understand it. I
Click
didn't.
on the folder.
Okay.
All you have to do, except for
Why
log.
do we got to change things?
And what?
Yeah, we're still getting the hard copies though, right?
Oh, my God.
I can't believe you.
It wasn't my idea to change
I
things,
can't
Mayor.
believe
Whose
that.
idea was it?
Yeah.
Lisa, we're still going to get a hard copy.
Oh.
Yes, you're still going
Okay.
to get your hard copies.
Mr. Collette raised his hand.
So every week we'll get a
Whose
folder.
idea was it?
We know who.
Why?
Lisa.
You know,
So
why do
every
we
week we'll
change
get a
things at
folder.
work around here? I move we adjourn.
We were-
Yeah, every week.
Why
Files
is
are
that?
becoming so large that
You know,
they
for
weren't
those
allowed
of
to
us
get through
that
some
are
email
computer
filter.
literate, I could make you do like you guys do. Print off.
Scott,
Because it's going to be a zip.
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Because now you got it. Because now I probably got to have some password to get
Information
in.
there that.
And if you save it, then you just have to click.
You know what?
Hello, how are you?
Because sometimes your computer goes crazy, then you got to go redo it, and you got to remember your password.
That's the problem.
All right, deal, boss.
Oh, yeah, somebody texted.
Yeah, right.
I don't care about quality.
No, I was saying deal. I won't back up.
Sure. Sure.
Called you here.
You're welcome.
I won't come.
Right.